Evening, there. Thanks. Welcome. I could almost call everybody out by first name, I think, tonight, which is fine, which is fine. But we'll call the meeting to order and get started. And I'm going to ask, let's do something different, right? Let's have the fire chief and the police chief come up and lead us together. That'll be the first duet we've done here. That's how. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Luevanos,
Here.
Councilmember Kavanaugh,
Here.
Councilmember Judge,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Litster,
Here remotely.
and Mayor Mashburn.
Here. And just to clarify, Mayor Pro Tem Litster is with us on Zoom tonight. Okay, agenda review. Is there any comments? Need to change anything?
Nothing
Okay.
from me.
Okay. And then, would you?
I move that all resolutions and ordinances presented tonight be read in title only and all further reading be waived.
Second.
Yeah, motion and second, call for the vote.
And Lucy, will you please vote yes for me?
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Okay, declaration of conflict. If any member of the city council may have a conflict of interest or any reason why that member must abstain from consideration of any matter on this agenda, he or she should so declare at this time. Seeing and hearing none, we'll go forward.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the first item on the agenda is item 4, public statements. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, since there are no public hearings under agenda item 5 this evening, agenda item number 4 and number 6 are combined this evening, and the City Council will hear the public statements under agenda item number 4. Agenda item 4 and 6 are the times allotted for public statements on all items other than public hearings, appointments, and informational reports. Speakers will be called on in the order in which their card was submitted to speak for this public statements item 4 for a period of no more than 3 minutes each. Persons addressing the City Council are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Mr. Mayor, unless you have any other comments, we can begin public statements.
No other comments, first speaker.
Douglas Bamforth.
Good evening. Just had a couple little things to speak about. First is somewhat whimsical. I see that we're going to be looking at Sealand containers. Not a bad idea. When all my plants die and my palms die from lack of water, I'll have one put in my front yard and I'll have a nice artist out and plant Hawaiian scene on there or something. Just kidding. Next, I was very dismayed by another human trafficking bust in Ventura County. This is a very sad thing. What people don't realize is a lot of those immigrants that come across the border undocumented, or whatever you want to call them, they're the ones that are plagued by this. And it happens in every single state, every single country of the world. And it's something that really needs to be constantly worked on. And then I'll just leave you with a little quote. The rights of man are summed up in 3 boxes: the jury box, the ballot box, and the cartridge box. And I pray that this country never reaches the 3rd one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sean Wiseman.
That's Frederick Douglass, by the way. Abolitionist.
All right, my name is Sean Wiseman. I'm a resident here in Simi Valley in District 2, and I couldn't help but notice that there really has not been much or any enforcement of the water restrictions. I can't say I totally agree with the water restrictions, but they need to be smarter and they need to be enforced. It's kind of ridiculous to let all of our plants and trees die when so much of the city is consumed by residential properties, and these plants are really essential to having an ecosystem here in Simi Valley. Turf, on the other hand, grass, that can go if it's non-functional. And as far as enforcement goes, I don't know how you guys plan on doing that, but something needs to be done because we're not anywhere near where we need to be with restrictions to not make this drought even worse. And I also don't know if any of you have heard of gray water systems or any other drought mitigation strategies. I'll clarify. Gray water systems take water from bathroom sinks, from washing machines and other appliances in the household, not the filthy stuff, not from your toilet, and without even using any pumps, they bring it to the yard through pipes using mostly just gravity, unless you have an upward sloping lawn, in which case, yes, you might need a pump. Because there's so much water that we use in the household that then just gets drained that could be used to water our lawns. And I think that should be encouraged in the city. And I know not many people even know about this. I only know about gray water systems because of a professor I took at Cal Poly. Quirky dude, I'll admit, but he had the right idea, and his yard was entirely sustainable. And we really need to move in that direction. That is all.
Thank you.
Michelle Liddell, or Michelle Little.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Liddell, and I'm a resident and business owner here in Simi Valley. I serve as a board member on the Simi Valley Chamber of Commerce, and that's who I'm representing tonight. Our 5-star chamber promotes a strong business community, and we're so grateful for the positive relationship that we have with our council. Through this positive relationship, we've been able to maintain a climate that's been really positive for business, and we'd like to continue that. So tonight, I just wanted to let you know about a few events that we have coming up. Excuse me. A week from tomorrow, we have Simi Valley's largest job fair ever. This will be held at the Simi Valley Town Center in the former Macy's building. We'd love all of you to come and attend and support this great event. It is free of charge for all businesses and residents in Simi Valley. It's designed to connect employers and potential employees. If you need more information, you can visit simivalleychamber.org for that. We also have a networking breakfast coming up on Friday, September 9th. It will be held at the Best Western Hotel from 7 a.m. until 9 o'clock. Our monthly networking breakfasts are open to business owners, nonprofit organizations, elected officials, and of course our community. So you do not need to be a chamber member to attend. Anyone is welcome to come to that event. It will be on the 9th. We encourage everyone to show up early, have a great breakfast, and then you can have a little bit of networking time too. The cost is $20 for chamber members or $30 for individuals that are not members of the chamber. And the last event that I just wanted to mention tonight is our Simi Valley Street Fair. That is coming up on Saturday, October 29th. We are planning on having over 350 vendors at this event. There will be free parking for those that are attending. We have all-day entertainment, a great beer and wine garden setup, a fantastic kids fun zone that will be completely free for any children that are ages 12 and under. And we also have some great little trick-or-treating events planned because it's going to be so close to the holiday. So just wanted to let everyone know about those 3 events, and also to thank the thank the council for your support of the chamber over the years.
Thank you.
John Lapper?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. John Lapper, Simi Valley. Let's see if I can get through this tonight. Over 1.73 million gallons of TCE, trichloroethylene, were used at Rocketdyne to hose down the inside and outside of rocket engines. Until 1964, this solvent was allowed to seep into the ground where it contaminated the water. TCE is known to cause birth defects. TCE in the bloodstream can cross the placenta and enter the developing baby. A pregnant woman's exposure to TCE during the first 2 to 8 weeks of pregnancy, when the baby's heart is developing, can increase the chance of having a baby born with a birth defect of the heart. In 1989, my wife became pregnant with our daughter, Holly. We wanted to do the right thing, so I went to Santa Susana Mill and purchased bottled water, which they obviously got from the groundwater below Santa Susana Field Lab. On February 19, 1990, Holly was delivered at Westlake Hospital at 12 noon. By 8:30 p.m. that same day, Holly arrived at her 3rd hospital in 8.5 hours. Our miracle baby survived that day miraculously despite 7 major birth defects. From heart, 1 kidney, malformed lung, tia fistula, imperfect anus, no uterus. At the time, we knew nothing of TCE. The doctors explained that something went wrong early on when the fetus was developing. Today, we know it was TCE in the water. Today, Holly is 32. She is a beautiful young woman. To say she has had it easy, no way. To this day, she still requires more heart surgery and has to deal with medical issues stemming from the birth defects. In the 1990s, I attended a meeting at Posada Royal Hotel in Simi Valley with CDC. Report taken and nothing. After 6 hours of waiting, I presented the commentary at the LA Water Board hearing on the MOU in Santa Clarita on the Santa Susana Field Lab cleanup the other week. Only Councilwoman Ruth Luevanos presented as a resident of Simi Valley, along with heart-wrenching stories of cancers and other harm done. For 20 years, this city council has not stood up with residents in protecting us from the harm. Mayor Mashburn had a photo op with then Secretary of EPA Perry and reported back it's a state and federal issue. Councilman Judge in 12 years has done nothing, but he gladly supported oil companies with no vote on A and B, which would have protected our water. A united Simi Valley government backing residents' concerns may have made a difference with a cleanup up until now, put off until 2025. Do better, Simi Valley City Council. Town halls, answer emails, social media, secret meetings at the junkyard are not enough. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that was the last speaker.
Thank you. Comments? Oh, I have to read my sign.
I see you looking at me, and I just want to make sure it's okay.
Yes,
May I respond, Mayor?
sure.
First of all, I want to thank you all for coming down here on Monday night. I know we're all back at school and at work. For those of us who are teachers, we're back at work full-time. Thank you, Mr. Banforth, for addressing the issue of how human trafficking hurts immigrants, and it hurts people that are not immigrants as well. And it damages the entire community. So thank you so much for coming and sharing your knowledge with us. I really appreciate it. Mr. Weissman, thank you for bringing up the gray water systems. There are a number of solutions that we need to look up and need to make sure that we build the infrastructure for that. So gray water systems, I've seen it in San Fernando Valley and Pacoima, reclaimed water. So Orange County is doing it. There's a lot of cities that are doing it. So thank you for bringing that up. Ms. Liddell, thank you for bringing up the Simi Valley Street Fair and all of the Chamber of Commerce events. I really appreciate that. And thank you for doing something for trick-or-treating so that the other entities know that they don't have to do it. And Mr. Lapper, thank you for acknowledging the fight that I have given to hold Boeing, NASA, and the Department of Energy accountable, and I will continue that fight. To the end that we have joined the lawsuit along with several other cities in Ventura County as a city council, which we all have signed on to that. We have and will continue to fight to hold them accountable. I too have a daughter that had birth defects. I too understand what that struggle is like, and I am sorry for all that your daughter has been through, and I wanted to acknowledge that. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to comment, as far as the field laboratory at or the Rocketdyne site, the city council has never wavered in its commitment to getting it cleaned up. We've done everything the city can possibly do except to go out and march and protest and sit in front of the people's houses that run the DOE and things like that. So we have done everything possible, and we will keep on doing it. We call for a complete cleanup of the site. We have never wavered from that. So your statement about myself not doing anything is incorrect, like most of your statements. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to just kind of echo what Councilmember Judge said. I think I don't need to lecture everybody here. Everything's public, and the 10 years that I've been on the council, I too have never wavered at asking for a full cleanup to whatever standard the experts determine that needs to be done. We don't have the jurisdiction over the Santa Susana Field Lab, but we certainly put out our voice, and recently did by joining the proposed lawsuit and in an effort to get it cleaned up. So if you're gonna read the record, read it straight. Thank you. Okay, next item.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 7, the consent calendar, and there is one resolution for your consideration this evening. Consent item 7, resolution number 2022-49, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Simi Valley adopting program supplement number F051 to administering agency state agreement number 07-5405F15 for the Major Streets Rehabilitation Project.
I just want to correct, that's consent item 6.
Oh, I apologize. Thank you.
Okay, are we ready to go forward with the consent?
Mayor, I'd like to pull some items.
Sure.
But I don't know if she needs to read the resolution first. Oh, okay. I'd like to pull consent items 2, 4, 5, and 7. Hopefully there'll be questions answered quickly.
Okay,
And I would like to pull consent item number 3, please.
was that number 3?
Please, yes.
Okay, we've got how many? 7. Yeah, let's just vote those first two, if it, with the motion.
Okay, I move to approve consent items number 1 and 6.
Second.
Okay. Call for the vote.
Please vote yes for me.
The motion passes unanimously.
Okay. Councilmember Lou Avanos, item number 2, your questions.
Yes, I want to make sure we're not, well, my question is, and please let me know, council, if this is, I don't want to impose liability on this, but I'd like to know what was the basis for a disagreement with grand jury findings 2 through 8. Do we already comply with those things and other Ventura County cities don't? Because I understand this was all the cities, right? All the water providers in Ventura County were included. So is that why we disagreed with grand jury findings 2 through 8?
So the grand jury, why they chose this topic is only known to the grand jury. We don't know, other than the fact that they are making the findings 2 through 8 of what they believe an agency should do to follow through. We're not, in our response, we're not disputing or agreeing either way. But we're, you know, we're not disagreeing with the findings or agreeing with the findings because we're following through. We believe that we're doing all the things that they're finding in those 2 through 8 anyway.
So, okay, so we as a water provider are disagreeing with findings, grand jury findings 2 through 8. I'm looking at on the top it's page 12, on the bottom it's page 5 of the final report. I'm sorry, it's confusing because there's 2 page numbers.
That's okay.
So at the top it's page 12, at the bottom it's page 5, and it
Yes.
says cybersecurity of water providers in Ventura County. So we as a water provider, right, we're putting our water provider hats on, board of trustees hats
Yes.
on. We disagree with findings 2 through 8 because we believe that we do these things, or because they didn't provide enough evidence. Thank
Yeah.
you. for
Yeah,
coming down here. Yes.
so for instance, finding 02, the grand jury finds inconsistent levels of cybersecurity for IT systems among investigative water providers. We can't agree or disagree with that. We disagree with it because we believe we are. Whether they are finding other agencies in that regard,
Okay, that was my question, because since we're all together in a group, like if we believe we're
That's
doing it,
correct.
but other cities are doing it, then we can't, okay.
yeah.
Is that,
Yeah, exactly. We can't speak for what the other cities are doing. The question was, or the finding was written in such a manner that we saw it as asking us to speak for the other cities, and we can't do that, so. So we don't disagree or we don't agree with the finding, we just can't. We don't have the information to do one or the other.
And the options are you either agree with it or you disagree with it. Well, we're doing it, so we disagree that that agencies aren't doing it because we are.
will we be found partially liable for disagreeing with it, since we're all lumped together? Will there be joint liability, or, and I don't know whether or not you can answer that question or not.
From a legal perspective, I'm comfortable with the city's response. It's kind of an ambiguous, vague question, and so the response allowed for that ambiguity. So I'm perfectly fine with the legal response.
And is the burden, is the burden on us or on the grand jury? Who has to prove the burden of whether or not there's, we have these?
Generally, allegations, the people who allege violations or nonconformity, they would have the burden of proof.
Okay, so they have some sort of evidence, right? That at least some of the agencies, not necessarily us, but some of the agencies of Ventura County, right? Otherwise, they couldn't have these findings, yes?
I'm not sure if they have evidence or maybe perhaps beliefs, and so they're making the inquiry.
Okay, so they can make findings based on beliefs with no evidence?
Now, the grand jury proceedings are secret, so I don't know. It's very
Okay.
difficult to say.
Okay, but we believe that we as water providers are doing these things.
Yes.
Yes.
Ourselves.
Okay, thank you. That's my question.
Okay, item number 3, Mayor Pro Tem Litster.
Thank you. Sorry, let me get to that. So if I'm understanding item 3, basically we have, because we have found, or our auditors, we have found that that we can allocate losses, we're able to move ARPA funds over. And I understand all of that, and I support that because I understand it will be easier for reporting processes. But my question is, if I'm understanding correctly, that leaves about 1.57 million that are not calculated as loss funds. And so therefore are constrained by federal reporting. Have we allocated, I know we at a previous time just decided how the ARPA funds would be distributed, et cetera, or ways to use them. Have we allocated what we are going to attribute to the 1.57 that will not go through the general fund, that will require the more onerous federal reporting? Does that make sense, my question?
Yes. So based upon where we are at today, we believe, because this works on a calendar, you can make the calculation on a calendar year or a fiscal year. we believe when the calendar year rolls around, we'll be able to claim the remaining 1.5 million based upon our tentative accounting we've seen already. That being said, there is $1.5 million that's going to other governmental agencies, ourselves, the Park District, the EDCVC, who do audits and do regular audits, that those reporting burdens will not be problematic for those agencies. So even if we are not able to claim the additional 1.5, it won't be problematic for us to comply. Claiming this 1.3 is going to free the burden up all these nonprofits that are receiving ARPA funds. They won't have to deal with all the federal reporting issues.
Got it. I understand. Okay, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, next item, number 4, council. Excuse me. Next item, number 4, Councilmember Luevanos.
Yes, I don't know who I named this question at. So I saw that, and please correct me if I'm wrong. According to this report, if you look at page 4 of the activity and performance summary, we have an unrealized gain loss of almost $1.5 million. Right? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. So do we need to shift our investments? What do we need to do so that we're not losing $1.5 million of our investments? Or can you tell me what that specifically is attributed to and what we can do to prevent future losses?
Well, that's unrealized, which means it's the difference between what we paid and what it's valued at today. That dollar amount it's actually better. It's actually improved over the last month. If you look at the June one, it was 1.7 million. So we've actually gained. So our unrealized loss is less in the end of July than it was at the end of June.
Okay, but I'm concerned with the overall loss. Like, maybe the loss is a little bit less, like maybe,
Well,
but it's still $1.5 million.
there's no loss unless you actually sell. It's just the market value on July 31st.
Can you tell me what that, is that property? Is that investments that we're making in stocks and bonds? And what is that loss attributed to? Because this is an issue that has been brought up by residents before, and I do want to address it. I'm glad that the loss is less than the 1.7, but it's still a $1.5 million loss.
Based upon the performance of the stock market over the last 60 days, I would venture to guess it is bonds, but we can provide that information directly to you, and we can send that information to the council so you'll understand.
Okay, and can we get that for the next report so that the public can see it as well, so that they're aware? And that, again, is my concern. If the loss is due to the stock market, then should we be shifting our investments into something more secure so that we're not losing $1.5 million of taxpayer revenue?
Yeah, we are constantly shifting our investments. We have advisors that do that for us and monitor the market and all of our investments and handle our investments. So we are constantly evaluating it, but we're more than happy to provide better information for you at the next one.
Yeah, I would have preferred, $1.5 million, I would have preferred that money to be spent down on our pension obligation, or, I mean, there's a number of things that we could have spent that money on, so that's why I'm bringing it up.
If you look at the bottom of page 12, you'll see that same number again, 1.4, and above that, it details all the different securities held. It's listed from page...
Do we have control over that, or does someone else have control over that? Like, can we as a city say, hey, we're losing money here, we need to shift that so that we're not losing $1.5 million? And I realize that it's unrealized loss because we're not liquidating all of our assets. I understand that, but it's still a loss.
We always have control over our investments.
Okay, so it's not someone else that's controlling our investments? We can say, hey, we need to shift so that we're not losing $1.5 million?
We work in conjunction with them.
Okay.
So, yes.
Okay, and do you have any suggestions so that we don't lose so much money in the future for next month?
Well, we're really not losing money. We hold them for the length of, most of these are bonds and securities. We typically hold them for the full length. This is as if we were to sell on July 1st.
Okay, but we would earn $1.5 million less.
Yes.
Less. Okay, so it's still a loss. Okay, thank you very much.
And number 5, Councilmember Luevanos.
Hello. I know that this is for a $1 million award from the U.S. Department of Justice for new radios. I'd like to know what the ballpark, and if we approve this, receiving this funding, the city is expected to not only spend the funds, but spend whatever exceeds the $1 million cost. And from what I'm reading in the report, it's going to cost more than $1 million. So this is going to cost $10 million? So the city is expected to front $9 million, is that correct?
Approximately.
And will that be coming out of our general fund?
So staff will be returning with a report in the next few meetings to talk about the project and to provide funding options for the council.
Is that like a regular ballpark figure of replacing radio communications? Because $10 million seems like a lot of money. And we have how many sworn personnel?
It's not just for sworn personnel. So it's actually a citywide project. This portion of the funding that the city has been granted in this discretionary process can only be used on the police department portion, which is, approximately, I want to say maybe $3 million-ish for the police department only. The rest of it is for the citywide communication structure. So Public Works uses the radios, the police department uses the radios, and then other departments as well. But the police department obviously is critical for the communications infrastructure for 911, dispatch, things like that. This portion, though, only can be used for the police department in the process of that project.
So is $10 million typical for a city of our size to spend on two-way radio communications?
The radios are out of date, and they have extended beyond their useful life. So we're looking at a complete replacement project, so it is a substantial project. I can't speak to if this is standard. I know staff is currently working on identifying project proposals and working with vendors to ensure that the city is provided with the best quote and the best resources possible.
I think the short answer is yes. We're working through the bid process. This will be funded through the general fund, the transit fund, the waterworks fund, as well as the sanitation, all of which use the radio system. So it's not just a general fund expenditure. We are replacing the entire system, as well the communication at the towers, as well as the repeaters, as well as the dispatch center and all the consoles. Every handheld unit that's held by an employee to communicate. It's a very large project and a very large system to be replaced.
I guess I'm just concerned that it was really shocking to me to read the $10 million price tag. I'm like, that is a lot of money. And, in the report, it didn't really, seem like it was for the entire. I understand that the grant is only for the police department. But I am concerned that, we have to pay the $10 million, right? The city has to pay the $10 million, and we will only get reimbursed $1 million. Is that correct?
That's correct.
That's
But
correct.
again, staff will be coming forward. Sorry, Mr. City Manager.
We've been preparing for the system we've known it's been coming for years. So we've already started to establish our game plan to pay for the project. I'm not worried. It's a system that we know what's coming, but it's needed at this time.
Okay.
And if I might just say something quickly, I think we should, I don't want to lose sight of the fact that this is $1 million that is a grant that is being given to us to help fund a project that is necessary, has been necessary for a while. And so, and if I understand, as I read the report, if we don't expend, basically it is, if all of a sudden we decide it's not needed and our radio system comes back into working operation and not being outdated, which we know is not the case, we don't have to certainly spend those funds. It's not like we're penalized in any way, but what I see this is as a tremendous way to reduce the total liability or total expense that is inevitable. And so I just want to be sure we don't lose sight of that $1 million is great to receive.
I am all in favor of grants. I just wanted to, make it clear that we are going to spend the $10 million and then only get reimbursed $1 million. And it just seemed like a high price tag for you know, the number of sworn officers that we have. It just seemed like a lot of money. But thank you for clarifying. I would have loved to have seen that in the report, that it was going to be used by Public Works and other city employees, and it's a citywide system. So this will be implemented, this will be used by
Citywide.
citywide. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Argabright.
Number 7, Councilmember Luminos.
Okay, I don't know who this question is directed to, but I'm very concerned. We seem to be hiring a lot of consultants. I saw in the staff report that it stated that we have contracted for staff support and assistance during times of staff vacancies, heavy workloads, or to perform special projects. I know that we contracted for our, for our, development plan that we needed to do, because that's very specialized and that takes a lot of time away from our staff. I understand that. But I am concerned. I am concerned that this award is 9% higher than IntraWest. I do see that it's awarded based on demonstrated competence and qualifications, but I also see that Rincon was ranked as the most qualified proposer by demonstrating relevant planning experience and staff with extensive planning knowledge. And that's on page 2 of the report. And here's my concern. My concern is that why are we not hiring more staff members to do this work? Is it not more reasonable? Because this is not a specific project. This is just general. Like we need help, so we're going to hire these consultants. And I'm concerned for the morale of our staff when they see that we're hiring out consultants. Is it not more reasonable to hire the staff that we need? Are we paying consultants more than our city employees? And if that's the case, then is that why we're losing city employees to these consultants? I'm just concerned. So if whoever can address this issue, I would greatly appreciate it.
So we are currently recruiting for planners. We have been recruiting for planners. Planners have been coming and going, as well as other areas of the city, as well as other governments are feeling the effects of the labor shortage at this time. We have contracted for consultant services for the last 5 years in order to fill gaps as we need it. I will tell you, it's a heck of a lot cheaper to hire a consultant on this basis than it is to hire a full-time employee and pay them the full wage, as well as benefits, as well as PERS and everything else. So I would much rather use a consultant to fill in the gaps during these times than to overstaff our department. Overstaffing is not a problem we have. Most agencies don't have that problem right now, but we use this as a stopgap and for to provide a relief of burden of staff in order to accomplish projects rather than overload our staff that we have here until we can become more fully staffed.
And I just wanted to concur with the city manager's comment there. This will be a morale booster to get this contract because we have 4 vacancies, and sometimes these very complex projects, they do them very well. Some of the, GIS mapping, et cetera. So they have a special skill set that we greatly rely upon.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure that we're supporting our staff. Thank you.
I just want to confirm that this company, Rincon, is not affiliated with the Rincon. I think it's called Strategies, the campaign.
That's correct. It is not.
There's no
connection.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a motion?
Yes, you may.
I move to approve consent items 2, 3, 4, 5, and 7.
Second.
Okay. Motion and second. Call for the vote.
Ms. Blanco, vote yes for me, please.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Yeah, that scared me.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, the next item on the agenda is item 9A, request for direction on possible amendments to standards for placement of cargo containers and other metal accessory structures on residential properties. And Sean Gibson and Zarui Shaparian are here to present this item.
We'll just be setting up the Zoom share here in a moment here. Good evening, Mayor Mashburn, members of the City Council. We are bringing back this request to receive direction on placement of residential cargo containers in residential zone properties. I'd like to introduce one of our newest assistant planners, Zarui Chaparian. She's been with us since December of last year, and she's doing a wonderful job for the city, both at the front counter and in the back office, including various code updates and entitlement applications. And once we confirm this presentation is visible, she'll present the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Mashburn and members of the City Council. Tonight, staff will be providing a discussion on cargo containers and metal accessory structures. Could you please confirm you can see the presentation on Zoom?
I got word that it looks good.
At the June 13th, 2022 City Council meeting, Council directed staff to prepare a discussion on a thorough review and allowing cargo containers as accessory storage on residential properties. In addition, the community has expressed interest in metal accessory structures on residential lots, including garages, carports, RV ports, and storage sheds. As such, staff requests City Council direction on whether to initiate code amendments and/or policy updates to establish specific standards that allow cargo containers and expand the allowance of metal accessory structures on residential lots. Cargo containers are intended to link international and domestic products with consumers and are not structures. They're not allowed as permanent accessory structures to residential uses on residential lots within the city. The city will issue a temporary use permit to allow one 8-foot by 16-foot cargo container on a residential lot temporarily for up to 28 days as pictured on screen for the purposes of moving goods and/or temporary storage. A cargo container will also be allowed on a residential lot when there is a valid and active building permit for the residential property. Cargo containers are allowed on residentially zoned properties when the primary use is a non-residential use. And those purposes are for storage or incidental uses to the primary approved land use. This includes properties with religious facilities, schools, and hospitals. The city defines a cargo container as a box-shaped container that is no less than 35 square feet in floor area, constructed of metal, enclosed on all sides, including top and bottom, including those units originally designed and built to store cargo for shipping by boat, train, or truck. Cargo containers range in size as pictured on screen, and pods are much smaller units with the smallest measuring 56 square feet. Staff search for cargo containers on residential lots in neighboring cities. On screen, you'll see images of cargo containers in the side and rear yards. The containers are visible from the street and are not screened from public view. Staff does not know the permitting status of these containers. On screen is an image of cargo containers in the rear yard of a larger rural residential property. Street view does not show the cargo containers on the property. Again, staff is unsure of the permitting status of these cargo containers. Staff surveyed 18 surrounding jurisdictions on how each regulate cargo containers on residential lots. Of the 18 jurisdictions surveyed, 6 allow cargo containers without modification, 3 allow cargo containers with modifications, 5 allow cargo containers temporarily, and 7 do not allow cargo containers at all. Of the jurisdictions that allow cargo containers without modification to its design, the following standards apply. Must follow the development standards of accessory structures, must be limited to 1 container in the rear yard, must obtain a building permit to make a container a permanent structure, must not be a habitable structure, and in some jurisdictions, such as Lancaster, unincorporated Ventura County, and unincorporated Los Angeles County, cargo containers are permitted in rural or agricultural areas. Of the 3 cities that require modifications for approval of cargo containers, the cargo container needs to be redesigned to match the primary dwelling's facade and roof and meet setbacks. The following standards apply within these jurisdictions that allow cargo containers as storage sheds. Containers must be modified to match the main residence's facade, roof materials, and pitch, be screened from public view via proper setbacks, landscaping, fencing, or decorative walls, meet the necessary height standards for accessory structures, be made permanent in nature, and only be used for storage or incidental uses allowed in the zone. Staff will further look into these standards when developing the city standards for cargo containers on residential lots. On screen is an image of a container having stucco sprayed on to be resurfaced. Staff determined several advantages and disadvantages to cargo containers. Advantages include that cargo containers are easy to obtain and install, and they are already built units or require little to no assembly. Fewer building materials will be required, and less labor is required as well. As such, making cargo containers less costly than a traditional building construction. Last but not least, they can be upcycled. Disadvantages of cargo containers include safety. As they are not traditional structures, the building code does not address cargo containers as a use on residential properties. Another disadvantage of a cargo container on a residential lot is screening. A typical container is between 8 to 10 feet in height and would not be properly screened from public view with current code standards, which only allow for a maximum of a 6-foot-high perimeter wall in most residential zones. Lastly, aesthetics is another disadvantage of containers, as they would go against current city policy for residential accessory structure standards. For the second half of this item, staff is seeking council's direction to review metal accessory structure standards with the Planning Commission. The city's current policy does not allow metal accessory structures on residential lots. The policy only allows metal barns, such as the one pictured on screen, on lots within an animal, horse, or limited animal overlay zone. The guidelines require that accessory structures over 120 square feet be architecturally compatible with the main residence, including roof pitch and facade finishings. As such, the metal structures shown on screen are not allowed in the city. Staff surveyed 6 surrounding cities on their rules and regulations for metal accessory structures. While all would permit a metal accessory structure, most require modifications to make the metal structure architecturally compatible with the main residence. On screen is an oversized steel carport approved in the city of Santa Paula. The carport is not visible from the street. In this next image is an example of how a metal structure may be resurfaced with a non-metal facade. Staff determined several advantages and disadvantages to metal accessory structures. Advantages include that metal structures are easy to obtain and install, and that they are eco-friendly, as metal is one of the most recycled materials. Disadvantages include that metal is susceptible to corrosion if exposed to air and water. Additionally, extra costs are associated with properly fireproofing a metal building. And last but not least, aesthetics are a disadvantage, as most metal structures would not be architecturally compatible with the main residence on a residential property. Staff recommends council to provide direction to initiate zoning code amendments to modify standards for cargo containers in residential zones, and direction to review standards with the Planning Commission for metal accessory structures in residential zones. That concludes our presentation. Thank you.
Questions? Comments? Question, Councilmember Lebanos.
I did press my button, Mayor, just so you know. I don't know if you're seeing it. I have a couple questions. I saw my question is relating to most people are probably going to put these structures, whether they're metal accessory structures or the container, the container units in their backyard. So what is our current standards for RVs that are in the backyard? Do they have to have a screening as well? Because RVs can be from 8 feet up to 14 feet tall. And so I want to make sure that we're consistent.
Yes, Councilmember, recreational vehicles are required to be in a garage or a carport when located in the rear yard. They may be uncovered in the side yard of the property, no cover or garage required in the side yard, but in the rear yard, they must be covered with the exception of our recently enacted rear yard parking provision from earlier this year, which allows certain rear yard parking without a garage or carport.
Okay, so, and again, I'm asking this question because I don't want residents to be, how can you allow these metal containers, but you're allowing 14-foot tall RVs in the backyard or the side yard? That's inconsistent with, what we're deciding, right, as a city, whether it's for aesthetic or safety or whatever the purpose is. In general, when other cities have allowed these cargo containers with or without modifications, they are not habitable, right? So people are not living in these structures. They're only using them. What would they be using them for? Like a gym, storage? Like what are they used for?
Primarily storage.
Have they had any issues with, I had a lot of questions that were going through my mind as I was contemplating this. They're not fireproof. We are, it gets very hot here. I got in my car the other day, it was 109 degrees. That was in my car, which is metal. So I'm concerned about the fireproofing. I'm concerned about the heat in there. I'm concerned about children, going in there and getting stuck in there and not being able to get out. We do have safety things for pools, but, do we have safety things for these kinds of storage units? Are those issues that have come up in other cities that allow these metal containers?
We haven't specifically searched on the specific safety of the cargo containers other than what's in the staff report. Again, anything over 120 square feet would have to require a building permit. The smaller ones generally would not be considered a structure, but standard building code would apply for all accessory structures.
So residents who have asked for this, because in the report it says that residents have asked about having these metal structures or containers, right? Because we're looking at both. Is that correct?
Well, there's two parts of it. There's a request to investigate whether cargo containers could be a special allowance as a allowable structure, and then metal accessory structures is the second half of the report. More often than not refers to metal garages, which are more traditional garages, metal carports, and other types of metal storage sheds, not specifically cargo containers, which is kind of a subcategory of its own.
So we currently don't allow any metal carports?
That's correct.
Okay, so we're looking at two parts. The first one is the metal containers, and then the one is the metal structures.
Yes.
In general, other cities that have allowed metal structures, do they require the facade of the metal structure to match the color, the aesthetics, or whatever of the main house? Whether it's in the yard, in the front, or the side, or the rear yard?
In general, yes, they do.
Okay. And then, again, my concern is with the containers. Well, I know, in none of the cities, the containers have been, you can't live in a container. Yes?
They would not be habitable, correct.
Okay, so you can't live there, but you can, use it during the day, like a gym or something like that, if you
Sure.
want an extra gym or something? Okay, but if you have it, you have to have screening. All the cities that have allowed the containers you have to have screening surrounding it?
Well, every city has different standards, so you could set up specific standards should you choose to allow for this. They may be partially screened. Right now we have 6 to 8 foot high fence heights, so there could be various allowances to require screening or in the rear yard only, not visible from the street. So there's various, should we move forward, we can come back with some proposed standards in addition to any suggestions you bring us tonight.
My other question and concern is if these are being used for storage, we do have a major issue with rats in the city. And, if people are storing food in there, or, stuff that rats might be attracted to, is this going to exacerbate that issue? Are they subject in other cities to inspection? Do they say you can only store non-food items in there? How do other cities handle that?
We're not inspecting the contents of the metal buildings, whether it's a cargo container or a metal lawnmower shed. It's really not under our purview to inspect those unless there's various complaints filed for, health concerns.
Okay, so if we did tonight approve the metal structures, that part of it, and people were storing food or things that would attract, vermin, right, rats to the structure, then someone could make a complaint based on a health code so that we could make sure that's taken care of. Is that correct?
As we do now.
Okay.
I want to make sure it's clear. We're not asking for a decision tonight. We're only asking if you want us to move forward in some broad guidelines to develop an ordinance that staff would introduce to the Planning Commission for their consideration. And then once the Planning Commission considers it, they would make some type of recommendation to the City Council and then would then come to you. So we're a distance away from making any approval. We're just looking to see, do you want us to move forward on something like this to the Planning Commission? And if you do, then you can give us some broad guidelines and we will develop an ordinance for the Planning Commission to consider, for them to consider moving forward.
I'm well aware of that. I'm just bringing up my concerns because if we want to provide guidance to staff, then we have to bring up our concerns so that when they write the ordinance, they'll know what concerns we have so that they can be addressed in the Planning Commission as well.
Okay, let's go to Councilmember Judge.
Are we on comments yet? Because I don't have any questions. I just have comments.
Comments.
Okay,
yeah.
thanks. I'll tell you a story. I was struck by a citizen came to me with this container thing. I did not know that we were not permitting containers on properties because I see so many of them in the city. That being said, this citizen had these containers on his property for over 20 years. His neighbor complained. So he got a letter from us saying, you got to remove these containers. Well, when whoever owned the property before him put the containers on this property, there was no park across the street. Since then, we've had to have the park district remove bolsters and railing so that he can get these containers off his property, which is fine. That all worked out. But I thought this was a great thing to bring up because I would like to amend the ordinance so that we have something that says basically, and this is a basic thing I want to get in there, because I would like to change the ordinance and allow these things on people's properties. I would say you would have to have a minimum of an 11,000 square foot lot, and they could not be seen from the street. That would be my recommendation for our changing for the storage boxes. For the metal units, I didn't know we didn't allow those either, because today the barn dominium is all the rage. That is what everybody's building on when they go somewhere else when they're trying to move on, buy some land or something. They're putting these barn dominiums up, and they're basically really nice metal buildings. And I think we should allow those too in some shape or fashion. And I'd leave that up to you guys and the Planning Commission to figure that out, because I don't have any specifics for that right now. But for these little storage containers, or some of them aren't little, some are 40 feet long, I think we should allow them, especially if you have large lots, because they're great for storing things, and they're a lot cheaper than the tough sheds over at Home Depot and Lowe's. Thanks.
Okay, Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Some of the comments I had were similar to what Councilmember Judge said, but I did want to say thank you for the report. I thought you were very detailed and gave us the information we needed to look at in order to move forward, and welcome aboard, since it's our first time presenting with us. My personal opinion, I did agree, I was going to bring up the fact that I think sizing needs to be comparable to the lot sizing. So whatever type of guidelines we want to put there, you can't put one of these big, huge things on one of our smallest lots, like my house. Put one of those on the side, it would take up my entire side and block everybody. But somebody with a larger lot, it would be very beneficial. I also, in looking through the report, when reading it, the Thousand Oaks tends to blend the most with us. And I liked kind of what they had, the modifications seemed to match where I would go, where it has to match the house to a certain degree, the colors and paints and that type of a thing. So those are my comments. I did have one weird question though, because it's going to come up. So we have a you had a picture of a metal carport cover, not carport on the side, but the freestanding. Can you put one of those over one of these containers? That's going to come up. So I just wanted to put that out there. Because you could actually put the container in, put one of those on to make it the same roof pitch as the house, and if you did it right, it could look good, and you could also screen. So that might come up. That idea came up for me, so I thought I'd throw that out there. So other than that, thank you for the report, and I'm in favor of moving forward with this to our planning commission.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Litster.
Thank you, Mayor. Several questions, and then just some thoughts. First of all, it wasn't clear to me, does this discussion apply to the prefabricated metal sheds like someone would purchase at Home Depot or Lowe's? Is that, are those constrained just as the C-trains are?
Yeah, council member, the policy is currently a policy. It's been in place at least 15 years or so, and we were planning on scheduling getting it back to the planning commission to make sure we're in the right place as far as city policy goes. And right now, substantial metal buildings, which you could purchase at Costco or Home Depot, might not comply with that policy. So yes, those could be included. We could also clarify when we take it back to the planning commission.
Well, and that was my question, because I mean, obviously we're talking about different construction of those, but maybe it's an issue of square footage. But I think most people assume or think if you can go buy it at Home Depot, you can put it in your backyard. But that's not the case, is what you're saying. Not legal. It's not. Is that correct? I mean, am I correct?
Generally, the ones under 120 square feet are looked at a different light than the larger scale ones that require building permits. But some of those smaller structures might be in conflict with your homeowners association or the plan development permit from an aesthetic standpoint. So, but we could certainly clarify that if we proceed.
I think I would like that clarified, so there's no question about what is or is not allowed or what's required.
Can I interrupt for a second, please? Sorry, council member.
Sure.
I just want to make sure, Sean, with regards to what she's talking about specifically, that's different than the other metal accessory structures, correct? It's on the agenda. I just want to make sure that discussion, that part of it would be properly agendized.
We're referring to metal accessory structures in general.
Okay. So I just want to make sure if she's talking about something you can buy at Home Depot or something that's...
Yeah, those are one of the same.
Okay, thank you. That clarifies my concern.
Yeah, I think you made it clear with the 120 foot, I believe. Above that, then we're gonna have to take a look at it. Less than that, it's assumed that it's store-bought and you can place it in your yard.
That's right. Some store-bought structures get very large though, so those are looked at as well. So.
Got it. Okay.
What I'm saying is, I think you said, clarifying, that pretty much under 120 square foot, you do not look at them.
Generally, they're less of an issue than the ones requiring building permits, which is over 120. Then it opens up permitting situation that we really got to look at.
Okay. And I think it would be good to have this put as the report goes to the planning commission, that is also understood as part of the report, because I think it's similar, obviously smaller, or it can vary. Let me ask, as I read the different, what the different cities are doing, I liked Fillmore's approach. If I understand, they allow these C buildings for storage, particularly for construction, and they allow up to 6 months for building construction. Right now, am I correct that we allow 28 days? Is that correct?
Yes, we just upped 28 days without a building permit, typically for moving out your house. If you have a building permit, it's for the life of as long as the building permit's valid.
I didn't realize that. Okay. I didn't see that in the report. I missed that. Well, that's good to know, because that's what I think we should have. Okay. I appreciate that. Lancaster used the term container permit. Do we have that kind of a term, like a container permit per se?
We don't have a container permit on the book. We have the temporary use permit, then we issue zoning clearances for accessory structures, and also for cargo containers where they are allowed.
Is there any value in creating a different permit category?
I don't think there's a need to call it something different. It's just whether or not they're going to be allowable through a zoning clearance process.
Got it. Okay. And I saw in Lancaster that they allow it as long as it's not, it's at least 50 feet from the property line, which suggests they allow these for larger properties, particularly agriculture use, etc. And I guess that would be my statement. I would concur that it should, I'm listening to the discussion, but that it should be maybe only allow, well, with C, and I realize we're talking about two different things. With the C trains, large lots, ideally out of sight, so it's not an aesthetic issue. And so maybe that is done by lot size or by setbacks. And with regards to requiring whether we can have metal, the report showed examples of metal barns and Quonset huts, et cetera, things that were not allowed. Am I understanding correctly that we do allow a metal structure of a barn, per se, for agriculture uses if it matches pitch, appearance, et cetera? That is currently allowed. Is that correct?
Yes, we have a policy handout which shows acceptable types of barn structures which may be allowed in the animal overlay districts. And they're more for, unlike a Quonset hut, which is kind of rounded, it's more of a traditional looking barn, which can be metal, and it certainly is typically compatible with the house. So we do have several images of acceptable looking barns, and some types of structure are labeled as not acceptable. So we would like to discuss those options with the Planning Commission if those standards are still appropriate.
Got it. And that's fine for that discussion. I just wondered if what Councilmember Judge was proposing, we do already allow in some fashion, but I guess that's limited to agriculture, animal overlays, not.
That's correct.
And so I could see where maybe we'd look at larger lots. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I would like to see us move along with, I think it was Councilmember Judge's suggestion to have something like a quarter-acre lot be a minimum size lot, and my personal preference is very good screening, and I don't mean to say anything negative about any other city, but I certainly wouldn't go by the Lancaster formula based on my visits to Lancaster. Now, they may have very good written documentation, but it doesn't look like it's being applied there. So I would be careful on adopting something from Lancaster.
Would you like a motion?
Mayor, may I make a comment, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Here are my comments. We do allow for metal barns already for agricultural purposes in overlay districts where you would have a farm, where you would be needing that. I work at a school where we have a farm, we have a metal container, that's where we put the alfalfa. Because we have a farm, we have a permit. What this is not intended to do is to grant personal favors to people who are not complying with the law. The code is the code. If the code says you can't have a metal container in your structure, we're not going to change the law to placate one specific person because they don't want to comply with the laws that exist right now. We are here to make sure that our community is protected and preserved. We are here to preserve the aesthetics that make our community such a desirable place to live for families, for workers, and we are here to make sure that we uphold the law and order for all residents, including those who are friends of elected officials, even during campaign season. We need to make sure that we preserve the aesthetics. It is hypocritical of us to move forward and say that we're going to allow metal containers to be permanently placed in backyards, but we're not going to have the same aesthetic, rigorous standards for 14 feet tall RVs that are in the side yard or in the backyard, for which we have received many complaints, and for which there have already been several moratoriums placed. If we care about the aesthetics of our community, if we care about the safety of our community, then we're going to be consistent in our standards and our building codes to make sure that we keep it a desirable place to live. Having metal containers on property for storage, regardless of the size of the lot, if it's 11,000 square feet, does pose safety issues. And I haven't heard any of my fellow colleagues here address those issues. And that is my concern. I want to make sure we keep it an aesthetically pleasing community. I want to make sure that we're consistent. If you need storage and you have an 11,000 square foot lot or a 20,000 square foot lot, then you can afford to go get storage somewhere. You can afford to go pay to put your stuff in storage, whatever it is you need to put in storage. I have no problem with the metal structures, the metal barn. I have no problem with that. But having these shipping containers on property, and yes, I have family that lives in Silmar, that lives in Pacoima. It is a blight. It does not look good. It should not be there permanently. If you need it temporarily because you're moving, you can do that. We already have that. You can have it for 28 days. Whether it's a small pod or a big pod and you're moving, you need to move your furniture, that's fine. We already accommodate that. So I am in favor of the metal structures. I am not in favor of the metal containers. Those are my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Just for the record, I haven't seen any evidence of selective enforcement. Thanks.
Thank you. I'd like to move that the City Council direct staff to initiate zoning code amendments to modify standards for cargo containers in residential zones and direct staff to review standards with the Planning Commission for metal accessory structures in residential zones.
Second.
Can I ask just a quick question? I understand it's been, when we are with this motion, we're reviewing the standards. It doesn't mean necessarily that we're relaxing them, but simply we are looking at them and exploring them. Is that
Right.
accurate?
Yeah, we're just sending it to Planning Commission to work on it. That's it.
To look at, okay. I just want to be
We're
clear
not
that
approving
that,
anything.
Right, no approval, just
Right.
giving direction to staff to go back to the Planning Commission.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call for the vote.
I'm voting no because I do believe we should allow metal structures, but not metal containers.
and I'm voting yes because I'm willing to look at this further, although I do have some concerns as voiced.
The motion passes with Councilmember Luébanos voting no. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, next on the agenda is item 10A, City Council member reports.
Okay, we'll start with Councilmember Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wednesday, August 10th, I was happy to come here to the city for the citywide summer luncheon for all the city employees. We had the Hamburger Habit truck outside and have all the employees were able to get burgers. Great idea. Again, just like we did with the In-N-Out truck a while back. Kudos to staff for putting that on, outstanding. And thank you to all the employees, and I hope you get your burgers. Thursday, August 11th, I attended with Councilmember Luébanos, the Task Force on Homelessness. No real news to come out of that meeting. We didn't change anything or do anything specific. On Friday, August 12th, I attended the grand opening of the new Fat Burger in town. So if you're a burger fan, we got a new place in town, over where Smash Burger used to be, right next door to Black Bear Diner. Check them out. Keep your money in Simi Valley if possible. On Monday, August 15th, I attended the grand opening of Callahan Station, along with, I think, at least I know the mayor was there. I think Councilmember Luébanos was there. Or not Luébanos, Councilmember Lister was there, or Mayor Pro Tem Lister. Those are 10 brand-new homes being built over there between the railroad tracks and the old Simi Park North development, adjacent to our mobile home storage lot. You access this off of Callahan. So these homes are nice. They're single-family homes with yards. They're new construction, and the way they've laid them out is different. It's not standard like we've seen all around town with your bedrooms up front, or the bedrooms, I'm sorry, not up front, bedrooms in the rear, living room structures up front. This is a different kind of layout, and it looked really great. So check those out. They have one open for modeling. The rest are coming online. On Tuesday, August 16th, I attended I didn't attend, I went for the grand opening for Advanced Auto Parts because it was on my calendar. It wasn't their day for the grand opening, but they were happy to see me. And the mayor went over there too, so we both had it on our calendars, so those people were happy to see us. If you don't know, Advanced Auto Parts took over where Pep Boys is, so it's no longer Advanced Auto Parts, now it's Pep Boys. Check them out. Keep
The
your
other
money.
way around.
Right, okay, I'm sorry, reverse that. Turn it around. Remember, keep your money and see me. Later that afternoon, all the council members were there to attend the waste management reception for their recycled natural gas project, which is an outstanding project. I'm sure everybody's going to talk about that. It's very exciting. So our landfill is basically going to be taking the gas that they naturally produce because it's a landfill full of garbage, the methane that comes out of the ground, and they're going to be able to use that to power their vehicles, to power their location, and to power other things in our city, which is outstanding. Thursday, August 18th, I attended the Ventura County Regional Energy Association. Did I get that right, Brian? Alliance, sorry. Those are members of the countywide board, and it's kind of like the CPA, but not as important. We don't have control over your electricity. We do some projects. Nothing substantial came out of that meeting either. Later that evening, I attended a concert at our Cultural Arts Center. It was a Carnatic classical music concert. It was a very interesting concert. I think I posted it on Facebook. It's Indian classical music. It's an amazing sound, an amazing skill, because all of this is taught by memory. There's no written music. It was amazing, and it was a great show. I was there with Mayor Pro Tem Lister. That's the end of my report.
Okay. Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Thank you. I don't have as many reports as Councilmember Judge does. You got around the last couple of weeks, didn't you? Like Councilmember Judge said, on Tuesday, August 16th, we all attended the waste management groundbreaking for their renewable natural gas station. Is it going to be called a station or a facility? It's going to be amazing, and it's like he said, it's going to take the methane and put it into renewable, usable natural gas. It's funny, for those of you, not everyone knows, my dad was actually a trash man for 10 years for the city of Glendale. And he always said, they need to use that gas up at the landfill for something one of these days. So, Dad, they're doing something. So he's happy, I'm sure. He always said that. The other thing I attended was the Saturday Music in the Park at Rancho Simi Park, not the duck park, but Rancho Simi Park. It was Yachtly Crew. The crowd was bigger than I've ever seen. I saw the newspaper or someone said 9,000 people. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but it was packed. We got there at 5. Usually you can get a good seat. No, we were way in the back, and we walked, so we didn't even have to try and park. But it was great, and it was really, really nice to see our community out there having fun. Just it's not into summer yet, but almost, because school started. So it was really, really great. And the concert in the park is always so fun because it is a free event. It brings the community out. People just have a good time, and it was really nice. I actually posted a picture with my friends. There were 6 of us that we went to high school together, and so we all happened to be there that night. So we just took a picture, and I went to high school quite a while ago. So it was nice to see everybody in town. I believe somebody else is going to speak. I just wanted to give my condolences on the loss of our County Board of Supervisor, Carmen Ramirez. Carmen chaired a couple of boards that I currently sit on. And she's one of the nicest, most compassionate, most dedicated people I've ever met in my life. And she is a big loss to this community. And the other thing, I'll end on a happy, is tomorrow is my youngest grandson's first birthday. So happy birthday, Dominic. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Let's see who we missing. Councilmember Luevanos.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to wish everyone happy back to school, all the teachers, the staff, the students. We went back to school on Wednesday, August 10th in Simi Valley Unified, and I know all the kids were really excited to go back and see their friends, not necessarily do homework, but to see their friends, definitely for sure. So I want to wish everyone a happy back to school. On Thursday, August 11th, I did attend the task force on homelessness, and like the true past secretary, I took lots of notes. So there were some concerns about Project Room Key. In case you didn't know, that was a response to COVID. And that was basically, they provided hotel rooms for those at-risk unhoused populations in Ventura County. They would give monthly motel vouchers and food delivery services. They were both funded under FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Association, and there was state COVID money that was going to help with this. However, that funding is ending. And so they are, trying to figure out how to help people because things are very expensive. Rooms for rent are going for about a minimum of $1,000 a month. Not an apartment, not a house, a room. To rent a room is $1,000 a month in Ventura County. They did mention something that I'm going to bring up in 10B, and I'm so grateful that the Chamber of Commerce is here because this is something that was done in Santa Barbara. It's something that's called Dignity Rooms, where the Santa Barbara Chamber of Commerce, Downtown Chamber of Commerce, worked to convert a public parking lot into 30 units that were used as shelters. And it was used to help downtown businesses and to get supportive housing. So that's something that I would love to send back to the Chamber of Commerce, since we have representatives here, if that's something that they would be willing to work with the Task Force on Homelessness to address that issue. We had a report from the Samaritan Center from Anika Sumbi. I hope I pronounced her name correctly, the new director. For those of you that are struggling financially, they do offer a pantry at 10 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So if you are in need of food, if you have food insecurity, of which I know we have many residents, please go to the Samaritan Center and you can get food at the pantry at 10 a.m. on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And I'm going to say that in Spanish, Mayor, if you don't mind. Si tienen falta de seguridad de comida, pueden ir al centro de Samaritano y pueden agarrar comida a las 10 de la mañana los martes y los jueves, ¿ok? Así que si necesitan comida, ahí pueden ir. They also talked about the future events, along with all the things that they're doing right now. They are in need of volunteers, gas gift cards, bus tickets, small water bottles, printing paper, canned goods. They do have an Amazon wish list, so if you want to help those in need, please reach out to the Samaritan Center. They talked about having a lot of people living in cars, and they need gas to get the job interviews. So if you want to buy a $20 gas gift card and donate it to the Samaritan Center, that would really help people get to interviews. And their future events, including on August 27th, they're going to have a planned giving seminar from 2 to 4 p.m. In September, they're going to have a community work day. So if you don't have money to donate, but you have energy and labor, you can go donate your time. And in October, they're going to have their annual pancake breakfast. They also, we asked for the future agenda to change the name of the task force to the Unhoused Task Force as opposed to Homelessness Task Force. That's not really a word that's used anymore. And our next meeting will be November 10th. So I would love for Chamber of Commerce to be there to hear the report on the Dignity Homes in Santa Barbara, since it was a joint venture in Santa Barbara. I invite you, Chamber of Commerce, to come to our next task force meeting and see if we can collaborate and make that happen here. On Saturday, August 13th, I took a trip with my Girl Scouts on the Metrolink. So in case you didn't know, you can take the Metrolink, the Ventura line, all day Saturday or all day Sunday for $10, okay? For $10, one adult and 3 children under the age of 18 can ride the Metrolink. So you can go from Simi Valley all the way to the Ventura County Fairgrounds or the beach or Oxnard or Camarillo, wherever it is you want to go, or all the way downtown, which is what we did. So we took the train in the morning to downtown Los Angeles, and we hung out at Olvera Street all day long. The girls absolutely loved it. Most of them had never been there. It was a cultural experience for them. And I really encourage youth leaders and those of you who want to go downtown, but you don't want to fight the traffic, take the Metrolink. It's $10, it's clean, it's efficient. The girls were thrilled. They were working on lanyards the whole way. But know that that is available. And you do not have to take a Metrolink train. You can take an Amtrak train. So if you want to take like an earlier or later train, you can take that. And I've had a lot of people asking, bless you, how do we take care of global warming? How do we deal with climate change? Take the Metrolink, okay? You can take the Metrolink. And we have a wonderful train station here, so let's apprise ourselves of it. On Tuesday, August 16th, I, along with the entire City Council, all of my colleagues, were at the Waste Management Reception. So this is a renewable natural gas project that we did the groundbreaking for. And basically, it's going to take the equivalent of 25,000 cars off the roads. It's going to take that many emissions out of our community. So when people ask, what are we doing about climate change? Well, Waste Management is one of our pivotal partners in dealing with that issue. And basically, the emissions that are coming, the greenhouse gas emissions that are coming out of the landfill are coming out of there because of all the food waste that has gone into the landfill for the past, several decades. So that's why it is really, really important that your food waste does not go into the blue bin, that it goes into the green bin. Please, please put it in the green bin, because all of the food waste that is going into the landfill is what is causing all of these greenhouse gas emissions. So it's really, really important that everyone in the community does their part to reduce those greenhouse gas emissions. We see the drought, we see the climate change, we see the intensity of the weather, all these things that are impacting us and the next generation. So this is one small part that Waste Management is doing to take these greenhouse gas emissions out of our community, and it's a big, big deal that they're doing this. So I encourage you, again, if you're a youth leader, they're doing field trips again of Waste Management, so you want to take your Boy Scouts, your Girl Scouts, your AP Environmental Science students up to Waste Management, see what they're doing and what they're doing to address climate change. I encourage you to do so. Last but not least, this week is Women's Equality Day, and I can think of no other person to honor better than our beloved Supervisor Carmen Ramirez. She was a friend of mine. She was an ardent, sorry, I'm trying not to get emotional. She was an ardent fighter for immigrants, for the poor, for disenfranchised populations. She dedicated her life. She was a Loyola Law School graduate, just like me. She worked in public interest law most of her life and dedicated her life and her family's life to making sure that those without had someone to fight for them. And she graced us with her presence several times here at City Council to do exactly that, to fight for those who didn't have anyone to fight for them. She was unfortunately killed by a vehicle in downtown Oxnard. I will be asking for 10B if we as a City Council can support making that a pedestrian zone. To that end, we have had way too many people that we have lost because of people in vehicles that are speeding, that are not paying attention. My mother-in-law lost a friend literally across the street from St. Peter Claver. So please, 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 when you are driving, please be cognizant. Please don't text and drive. Please don't drink and drive. Please don't speed and drive. Please be cognizant of pedestrians and know that that's somebody's mom or daughter or brother or dad or child that is walking across the street. So please be cognizant of that. And I wish the Ramirez family my deepest condolences, my heartfelt, courage for them during this difficult, difficult time. And if anyone stood for women's equality, it was Supervisor Carmen Ramirez. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Litzner.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate those comments about Carmen Ramirez. I was also going to comment. In fact, I'd like to start with my comments about her. I served with her on the SCAGS and Energy and Environment Committee, and it was clear that she was also a fierce advocate for our environment and for many good causes. And she really represented our county, Ventura County, well. SCAG, of course, is an association of 6 different counties, and here she was first vice president. She was the president-elect. Next year would have been the president of SCAG. She always spoke for not her constituents, but her constituents were all of us. And so she will be and is sorely missed. And I too extend my condolences, and I'm so sorry. It was such a shock. But just to give you a brief summary, and I apologize, my voice sounds pretty gnarly, but thank you for putting up with that. On August the 10th, I had the privilege of attending a planning meeting for the 13 Souls Run, which is taking place this Saturday, originating at the train station at 6 in the morning. It is in honor of the 13 souls that were lost, specifically in Afghanistan when they were defending freedom in Kabul. And Mr. Von Molt's son was serving there at the gate. He had just been relieved. And they were in agony for hours, wondering if he had been lost. But I appreciate that Mr. Von Molt is is remembering the fallen and inviting us to participate in that 13-mile walk, run, bike. It's not a competition. It's not a race. It is an opportunity to celebrate their lives, what they stood for, our freedoms. And so I invite all to participate. Anyone can sign up online and participate. There's no cost. 13soulsrun.org if you want more information. And that will be taking place this Saturday. On the 11th, I appreciated visiting with our city manager, Brian Gabler. I also attended or sat in on an EV, electrical vehicle Zoom meeting where we had young college students who have been interning and talking about electrical vehicle development in Ventura. And they had some good ideas, but truly, I think my takeaway was that there's a lot more that needs to be done to make it really viable. I also attended the opening ribbon cutting for Fat Burger with the mayor and council member Mike Judge. It's fun. Welcome back. I understand that Fat Burger has been around for 70 years and that it used to have a location on Cochrane many years ago in Simi Valley. And now they're back, of course, with the new owner, but delighted to have them back. On the 13th of August, I attended Praise Fest, which was a beautiful outdoor concert that was held over at the Duck Park. And it was sponsored by the New Beginnings Church with Pastor Clark. And they wanted to provide something that just celebrated our life and talked about services and beautiful music of praise. And I just appreciate attending their efforts to invite the entire community. And in attendance there were a lot of our nonprofit organizations, including the Samaritan Center, Sarah's House with Tiny Treasures. There were a lot of our police force was there. A lot of good people were there celebrating together. I too was there at the Callahan Station open ribbon cutting open house on the 15th of August. Delighted that I understand they've already sold their first home. There are 9 more to go. So do go over and see those beautiful homes. On the 16th of August, I too attended the waste management. I realized, I guess it was technically what do we call that? A shovel or beginning when the
Groundbreaking.
But I want, thank you, groundbreaking, where we got to put our shovels in the dirt. Thank you for giving me the right word. But I wanted to share some of specifically the highlights that are coming from that. And I think we need to recognize that it really does put Ventura County on the forefront of emissions reduction technology. I believe WM across the nation has maybe 6 of these facilities, and this is one of the 6 that are coming online. It's $100 million investment by Waste Management, and it's really something that we should be proud of to have in our community. They are suggesting that greenhouse gas and carbon dioxide emissions, they will be avoiding more than 100,000 tons per year will be eliminated. It basically avoids over 2.5 million tons of greenhouse emissions over 20 years. And they expect this to be operational by 2024. And then what I think is important to realize is that it's operational even after the site closure. So for instance, when that landfill closes in 2050, it still can produce gas and ability to power. And the statistic that they gave us is that the amount of recovered gas would serve the equivalent of over 60,000 households in California. And it's one of the few that's going directly into the grid, which is really commendable. Just a personal anecdote. With my company, we manufacture checks, but the checks that we use now are being powered by biogas that are being produced. And so we as a company have come to appreciate that this is a source of energy that can really, really power great things. And so I'm just delighted that we have this in our community. Just a couple more things, and then you won't have to listen to my voice anymore. I'm sorry. On the 18th of August, I appreciated the meeting with Stratus, Paris, and Ted Drago. They helped me. I was meeting because of a constituent concern, but they basically helped me understand the difference in our planning for SB9 units versus ADUs. And there's really some interesting differences, and it's critical that we make that distinction. And so I appreciate that time. It might be worthy in the future that we have that discussion as a council again, but I very much appreciate that education. I also attended the Valley Industry Commerce Association on the 18th and spoke. I promise I didn't sound like this when I spoke about on behalf of our city, represent our city, and they specifically asked me why I chose to move my business to Simi Valley. I will say that I spoke about all of our 90,000 industrial square footage coming online, the many reasons why businesses would want to come to Simi Valley. And yes, it was a delight to join Councilmember Judge attending the Carnatic classical music, and thank you to Dr. Ranjini Kaushik, who put this together. And I want to thank the mayor who had the first conversation with her and encouraged her to avail herself of maybe some of the grant programs that are being offered through the Cultural Arts Center. And so I really thank the mayor for making for that conversation and getting that going. I'll conclude with that. Maybe I just conclude by recognizing the 3 Eagle Scouts that I recognized this past weekend, and that's Logan Barlow, Reed Barlow, and Daniel Fromoshan, all who were just received their Eagles this weekend. So I conclude with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, you guys covered everything I did, so I'll just step down. Tuesday, August 9th. Online meeting with the chamber, led by chamber leader John Tolson on economic development issues in our city. And we have some stuff going on there, but we also have a ways to go. We got to start producing actual products, so to speak, that we could deliver to our businesses here in Simi Valley, i.e. one of the things we're discussing, but we got to get beyond the discussing and start doing, is providing businesses with guidance on how to deal with these ADA issues that come to our, and just hijack or commit fraud, whatever you want to call it. And I think it's very important that we work together to come up with at least a solution or education on how to handle this. So we're working on that. That same night, and I won't mention names because it's campaign time, but I attended a speech up at the Reagan Library. And we can never forget what a great thing it is that the Reagan Library is in our city and what they provide. And like I always tell my friends, I says, I don't care what side you are, left, right, up, down, square, round. I said, when you walk out of the Reagan Library, you walk out feeling more patriotic. And that was once again the case on Tuesday. Yes, the hamburger Summer City-wide luncheon that I have to say I don't know who came up with it. I really doubt that you did. But whoever came up with that, what a great idea. And the employees seem to enjoy it so much. And then there's a couple of, or at least one mayor and a few council members that kind of sneak into the line. But it's a great day. It's a good day to see everybody. And what a super idea. And thank you for that. Went to the Fat Burger grand opening and the 5-star chamber, and we celebrated that grand opening and hopefully got them off to a good start. I too attended the Callahan Station, and I'm going to ask planning or ask our city manager, is Callahan Street named after Roger Callahan family?
I think it's there before.
Yeah.
Really?
I'm not sure. We can ask Roger.
Yeah, we need to ask Roger.
I'll ask him.
The location doesn't make sense.
No, the location doesn't make sense, but Roger is such a big part of this community and has done so much. I'd like to know that's factual and I could brag about him. But the thing was that there was 10 very nice homes. I got big kudos for our city, our planning department, and all the work that they did to get that done. So I'm sure it's more than the one household by now. On the 18th, I went to the Simi PD Citizens Academy opening day and spoke. And it's amazing how many volunteers Simi Valley has and how valuable they are. And there was a very large group of volunteers going through the Citizens Academy, which will add to the safety of our community. I also, with all of us, attended the waste management groundbreaking. And I thought renewable natural gas, which has been a waste gas for quite some time, what do we do with this? We flare it off, we get rid of it. Those that can remember, certainly wouldn't be me, but when kerosene was how we powered our cities, gasoline was a waste product and just thrown away. And then they did research and what have you and came up with a good use, and that was the internal combustion engine. So this is kind of like the next step in my book. They've had this waste material, they've done this research, and they found a way to do the environment good and at the same time make use out of this gas. And that's going to happen right in our backyard, and we're going to hear and about Simi Valley and taking the first steps to be a city that is truly doing something about cleaning the air. And I thank Waste Management for their part in that. The others spoke so well about the different statistics, such as the 60,000 homes can be powered by our landfill. So kudos to Waste Management, and look forward to that to get going along. I think that's it. It is it. Lucky you. So with that, we'll go to the next item. And people want to bring up new agenda items.
Mayor, I have two requests.
Okay.
My first request is for, in honor of Supervisor Carmen Ramirez. I know that her husband and her husband had fought for a pedestrian zone to be utilized in downtown Oxnard, specifically to avoid the kind of accidents that led to her death. So I would ask for City Council to send a supportive letter to Oxnard City Council in support of the pedestrian zone in Oxnard. I know that many of our Simi Valley residents, including my husband, work in Oxnard, shop in Oxnard. I've been in downtown Oxnard many, many times. And so it would benefit our residents as well.
Okay. I don't think you need a second on that. Does she need a second? I think we just should do it. We're going to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Ruth.
My second request is to ask for letters to be sent on behalf of the city to Department of Toxic Substance Control, Boeing, NASA, and the LA Regional Water Board. It is our residents, as well as the residents of West Hills, which are my students, Canoga Park and San Fernando Valley. As a matter of fact, at my school, 1/3 of our staff are cancer survivors because of the lack of cleanup at the Santa Susana Field Lab. My daughter had birth defects. I can't tell you how many other children we have and students with special needs and birth defects because they have not cleaned up. And the MOU that was agreed to by the LA Regional Water Board is set to leave 95% of the radioactive contamination and 100% of the chemical contamination. So I think it behooves us to defend our residents and send a letter demanding for a full cleanup with the original agreement intact so that we protect our residents and future generations.
I think we've done that in the past, and I think it's a great idea to do it again and to all the entities that you mentioned.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Kavanaugh.
Yes, I just recently, on behalf of the city, we sent a letter, plus we've joined the lawsuit. And then I would also encourage the city attorney to look at any communications we make so we don't somehow cross that legal line and say something that might backfire on us.
Right, we can definitely do that for you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Done. Mike Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'd like to bring up something that was brought to my attention. Let me clarify for the record that the metal storage unit was not a friend of mine. It was just a citizen. So this is the same thing. A citizen brought this to my attention. And I didn't know we were doing this. Apparently when our nonprofits have, I'll use the example that was brought up to me, the Beer Fest that's happening next Saturday. Apparently when our nonprofits put on those types of festivals, the people that come and give away their services, i.e. in this case, free beer, because it's about breweries and stuff like that, they're charged a city tax. I did not know this. How long has that been going on, Brian?
Forever.
Really?
Yes.
But has it been enforced? Because I've never heard of this before.
We enforce it whenever we're aware of it, yes.
Okay. Well, of course, all the nonprofits in the town want to do stuff by the book and make it legal. I don't think we should be burdening them for a cost of under $2,000 for something like this, because their money does go back to our community, and it's a very important thing. The organization that's putting on this festival is going to pick up the tab for this tax, not give it to the, obviously not give it to the vendors. So I'd like to have it brought back to council so we can discuss this and possibly change that ordinance to make it so it doesn't burden the nonprofits.
I'll second that.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, thank you, Chamber, for being here tonight. That was in my report, and I somehow went right over it. But thank you so much for coming and giving your report. I think that's good, and it's also a great way to get it out to the community, so thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay, it's my turn. I don't usually do this, but I'd like to agendize taking a look at the issue that is the metal carports with the solar panels on them down off of, I forgot the street, but it's Jerry Ross is one of the people involved.
Oh, the mobile home park?
The mobile home park. And the reason I bring that up is that I haven't heard anything, and I know it's a big issue, at least to those folks, and I want to make sure that we stay on it. And so I'm looking for maybe a discussion here to see where we stand and what's going on, and if there's anything else we should be doing.
So that is still working its way through the planning process. It may come to you through that planning process. So I would not recommend you have discussing that prior to it coming to you, either through the Planning Commission or through some other method. However, we've been more than happy to give you, the City Council, an update on where that project is and where it stands right now.
Okay, I'm good with that. The other thing I'd like to bring up is when we were up there at the landfill, it became pretty obvious how easy it is for the trucks to get up there and get the reclaimed water. And asking some friends that know how to do math very well, they said that the water is probably costing something like 3 cents a gallon, if I'm not mistaken. That was the number given. But I've seen other cities and news reports of how reclaimed water from cities, and the cities are making movements and allowing people to go get that reclaimed water and use it to the benefit of the city in this time that we're so under, the drought is hurting us so bad. High dollar landscaping and what have you. And when you drive up there, you go right past the big construction site on Madera, the Zeebeck, I think it is.
Yes.
And they're down there watering like crazy, and for their construction purposes. I can only assume that they're taking water out of one of our fire hydrants, and right up the street, there's reclaimed water filling trucks to do the landfill. So do you see where I'm going?
I do. There are some complications, but let us bring back an item to discuss those. That water is actually not our water, it's Waste Management's water, so we'd have to work with them on that. But I've been working with staff on another alternative that might work out better. So we'll bring something back to you
So I'll second the mayor's request so it can
There
be
you
brought
go.
back. There you go.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. And you'll bring that back before it starts raining?
Yes.
Thank you.
If it rains shortly, we'll be in good shape, though.
Okay. All right, tonight, and first, thank you, Ruth, for saying what you had to say about Carmen Ramirez. That was a very big loss to our entire county and of course, everybody in it. And so we're going to adjourn in memory of Carmen Ramirez tonight, Chair of the Ventura County Board of Supervisors. And we're also going to adjourn in memory of Craig Oliver Harris, Eric Harris's father. And the next one is Hines. I hope I don't mutilate his last name, but I know it's spelled correctly. He goes by Richard, but Flexzock, and a long-term resident of Simi Valley. We lost him recently due to COVID. And firefighter Matthew Clapsaddle, who is a Ventura City Fire Department paramedic, recently passed. So we'll close tonight in their memory, and we'll send out the appropriate letter and certificates. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for being here.